Hi, welcome to bakingmad.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make some super simple fairy cakes. These are perfect to make with the kids. They're so easy to do, really fun, and it keeps them entertained for a little while during the summer holidays. So, I'm going to start with some butter. Now, I have taken this out of the fridge about 30 minutes before I wanted to bake to bring it up to room temperature. You're also going to want to preheat your oven to 180 degrees Celsius, 160 degrees if you have a fan oven, which is also gas mark 4. It's also advisable beforehand to just prep a cupcake tin, a 12-hole cupcake tin with tiny little fairy cake cases. Now, these are going to be smaller than a cupcake case, and not as deep as them. So depending on what you want to make, you've got to pick the right cases. So I'll pop that over the side for now. So I have in my bowl 100 grams of butter. I'm just going to spoon that into the mixer. Now I'm using an electric mixer because it's quicker and a little bit easier. But if you don't have one, or you prefer to get your hands dirty and get in there, then you can use a wooden spoon or a hand electric mixer. I'm also going to put in 100 grams of unrefined golden caster sugar. Now I prefer using this because it gives a lovely golden colour and flavour to your cakes. What I'm going to do now is just pop this into the mixer, and we're going to cream together the butter and the sugar. Now, depending on how hard your butter is, whether it's completely softened, it will take about 5 minutes to mix it together and become light and fluffy. So you want to do it on about a medium speed. And you may, in between, want to kind of scoop down the sides with a spatula if the mixture's pushing itself to the side, so it keeps it all together. That's the butter and sugar all creamed together. Now what I'm going to do is just scoop down the sides to bring it all together. But as you can see, it's a lot lighter in colour than it was before. That's because the butter is now fully integrated with the sugar. So what we want to do now is add the eggs. So you're going to need 2 eggs for this. I'm going to add them one at a time, and then mix in between. So it's important to not get any of the shell in your mixture, because obviously you don't want crunchy fairy cakes, because that's not particularly nice to eat. So I'm just going to give this a quick blast, and then I'll add the extra egg. Now don't be worried if your mixture looks as though it might have curdled, if it's a little bit lumpy and just not coming together. This is completely normal, and just add a tablespoon of flour to your mix, give it a little mix around, and it will just smooth it out and look normal again. So now that's all mixed together, we need 100 grams of self-raising flour, and I'm just going to take half a teaspoon of baking powder to give it an extra lift. I'm just going to mix this all together, just so it's blended with the flour. And just before I add that in, I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now this will make your fairy cakes taste really delicious, give it that little bit of a lift that makes it different from if you were just using a packet mix, for example. This extract comes in different flavours, so if you wanted a flavour orange or lemon cupcakes, fairy cakes, you can do exactly the same. If you wanted to make chocolate fairy cakes, if you just take out about 15 grams of the flour and replace it with 15 grams of cocoa powder, then that will just give it the look and taste of a chocolate fairy cake. So now I've added my extract, I'm just going to pour in the flour and baking powder and mix it just until it comes together. You don't want to overmix it because it's going to knock out all the air that you've just put in from the butter and sugar when you've creamed them together. Okay, so now your mixture is all bound together. just remove the mixer. You might want to just run around again with a spatula. So you can see there it's lovely and light in texture and colour. So what I'm going to do now is fill up the fairy cake cases. So the key to this is you only really want to fill them about 2/3 full, so you're not going to need a lot of mixture. Some people like to fill it up with piping bags or maybe an ice cream scoop, but I'm just going to use a spoon because it's just a bit more convenient. So just one blob into each case, should be plenty enough mixture to fill up your fairy cakes. You don't need to be particularly tidy about doing this because when they're in the oven, the mixture will kind of fill out and settle in place anyway. Okay, so this is the last one to fill up. If you've got any extra mixture, you can always go around and top up some of them or pop in another tray of fairy cakes if you've got plenty enough in your bowl. So these are all now ready to go into the oven. So you should have preheated by now your oven to 180 degrees Celsius. 160 if it's a fan oven or gas mark 4. These will only take about 15 to 18 minutes to bake and then they'll be ready for you to cool and decorate later. So the fairy cakes have been all baked, taken them out of the oven, popped them on a cooling rack just to cool down for a few minutes because you don't want to be icing them when they're still quite hot because the icing's just going to run. Now the lovely thing with fairy cakes is that you can actually turn them into beautiful little butterflies with wings coming out. I'm going to show you how to do that. So just take your fairy cake and really gently, about 1 centimetre from the outside, carefully cut a circle out of the centre of the cake. And you just want to just scoop the filling out so that you can fill with icing. Doesn't matter if it's not really neat. It's something the kids can do and it looks pretty anyway. So I'm going to take some buttercream that I've made up and fill the centre. You can put in as little or as much as you like. There we go. Then, using the piece that you've removed from the centre of your cake, if you just cut it in half, these are going to form your fairy wings. So, you just poke them in to the centre of your cake at a slight angle. These will make your wings. And just to add a final touch, you can pop some icing sugar on top. So just pop some icing sugar into your sieve and gently dust over the top of your cake. And there you have it, a cute little fairy cake that the kids are going to love.